Well, first of all, thank everyone for their patience. I'd like to go ahead and call the joint meeting of the Valley Metro RPTA and Valley Metro Rail. Pat, will you take the roll, please?
Good morning, everyone. City of Avondale, Councilmember Max White.
Present.
City of Buckeye, Vice Mayor Clay Goodman.
Present.
City of Chandler, Vice Mayor O.D. Harris. City of El Mirage, Councilmember Monica Dorsey. Okay. Town of Fountain Hills, Councilmember Peggy McMahon.
Here.
Town of Gilbert, Mayor Bridget Peterson. City of Glendale, Councilmember Lauren Tomlichoff. Here. City of Goodyear, Councilmember Bill Stipp.
Present.
Maricopa County Chairman of the Board, Jack Sellers.
Here.
City of Mesa, Vice Mayor Francisco Heredia.
Here.
City of Peoria, Vice Mayor John Edwards.
Present.
City of Phoenix, Councilmember Laura Pastor. Town of Queen Creek, Councilmember Jeff Brown. City of Scottsdale, Vice Mayor Kathy Littlefield.
Here.
City of Surprise, Councilmember Allie Klein.
Here.
City of Tempe, Vice Mayor Jennifer Adams.
Present.
City of Tullison, Vice Mayor Lupe Bandon. Town of Wickenburg, Mayor Rui Pereira.
Present.
And Town of Youngtown, Mayor Michael LaVault.
Yes, Pat, I'm here.
Chair, we're ready to proceed.
Great, thank you, Pat. First item on the agenda is public comment. Do we have any speakers?
No, sir, there are no speakers today.
Okay. Item 2 is the Chief Executive Officer's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members of the board. Got a few items I'd like to update you on this morning. Following up on our last meeting in the month of May, we did receive public comment during the board meeting regarding service quality. I want to let you know that we have closed the loop on that customer contact with Mr. Medina and actually continue to work with him. Valley Metro staff and City of Phoenix public transit staff met on site with him to explore his concerns. We've identified a few different challenges that we're working through currently. Also, in response to board feedback and direction in the area of making accessible transit more accessible, we hope to host our first mobile ADA eligibility event in the city of Surprise next month. Thank you, Councilwoman Klein, for your ongoing support. This is the first of several steps that we're exploring, or one of several steps that we're exploring to make accessible transportation more accessible. We are nearing completion of actually sending out our platinum passes to our ADA eligible customers to their home rather than having them pick up. And then we're exploring when and how often customers actually need to be present in person for an ADA eligibility assessment in the future. We'll continue to provide the board with updates on this item. Out in the community, last month, we celebrated our 23rd annual Design the Transit Wrap contest. Jackson Washburn is, I think he's a sophomore or junior at Chaparral High School in Scottsdale, was our winner this year. We have dozens of submissions every year. The winner is selected by a panel of artists and advocates, and Jackson's work will appear on, or is already appearing actually, on a bus and a train for a period of 1 year. This is several different programs that we have embedded in schools throughout our service area that are educating the students about the value of transit, and in this instance, creating a connection between transit and public art. I want to draw special recognition to our Director of Service Planning, Carol Ketcherside. At the beginning of next month, Carol will retire from her now decades storied career in the transit industry, serving the public across several different cities. She has spent the last 18 years of her career here at Valley Metro. Carol, we will surely miss you, and we congratulate you on your next chapter. Thank you for your service. Looking ahead, we do have a board recess over the month of July, but we're already hard at work preparing for the August cycle. The board will convene again in this room on August 22nd. That concludes my remarks, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you.
Oh, nope, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Wait, there's more.
Wait.
I think so.
Okay, I actually want to recognize our board chairs at this moment.
Oh.
Chair Stipp has been part of the Valley Metro RPTA board for 7 years. I believe it's seven long years of service, including on our audit finance subcommittee as our audit finance subcommittee chair, most recently as chair to RPTA. Chair Stipp has provided tremendous leadership to staff, to our member communities, and across the board to his peers. We've moved through a number of great challenges in the last 7 years. We faced a global pandemic, introduction of new capital projects and programs. We've leaned into some of our big challenges with transit quality and ridership. You hired a new CEO, so thank you for that, Chair Stipp, and your confidence. We appreciate your leadership. I think you have emerged both at Valley Metro and in your role at MAG as a great regional voice. And that, I think, is the piece that I'll take most from your tenure, is your emphasis of Valley Metro and MAG as regional serving entities. And that's important, I think, that we carry that forward. We have a gift for you, Chair Stipp. And to Councilmember, while Chair Stipp is approaching, Councilmember Pastor, we also want to thank you for your leadership of the Valley Metro Rail Board in the year prior of the RPTA board. We've accomplished a great many things this past year, including the opening of Northwest Phase 2 ahead of schedule and below budget. We have made advancements in security that I don't think we would have been able to achieve without your leadership, Chair Pastor. We also last year, in your tenure as our PTA chair, made great advancements in wage rates that have helped us shore up those workforce shortages and provide more reliable service to our customers. I think the aspect of your leadership that we have most benefited from is your unwavering commitment to hearing the voices of the constituents that you serve. You carry that forward in your leadership every day, and I hope that we continue to reflect that. Thank you, Chair Pastor. And we also have a gift for you. Come on.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the Audit and Finance Subcommittee update. Vice Mayor Gibbon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. AFS met this last Wednesday, June 12th. We convened into an executive session, conducted a review of the chief auditor, as well as heard results of the multi-factor authentication audit. AFS directed staff to take the appropriate steps for the items discussed in executive session. We received Chief Financial Officer's update. Mr. Kessler provided an update on PTF funding. Minutes from the prior meeting, the May 2nd meeting, were approved. And AFS received a status update on internal auditing progress, external reviews, prior audit findings, and recommendations. Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Awesome. Does anybody have questions for AFS? And I believe that was your final meeting as chair.
It was.
Well, congratulations on your tenure there.
Thank you. It was do no harm.
Yeah. I didn't get that memo when I started on AFS.
But I am a doctor, so.
That's true. Yeah, so if there are no questions, we'll move to the consent agenda. We have item 4A, which is the minutes, 4B, which are the intergovernmental agreements, for C, the financial audit services contract, for D, claims management, for E, the insurance brokerage and consulting services contract, for F, Allied Universal Security Services contract, for G, the authorization to issue and request for proposals for market research services, and for H, authorization to issue a joint agency competitive solicitation for fair inspection and security services. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move. Second.
Any discussion, any questions on any item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, item 5 is the authorization to continue the purchase of IT hardware and maintenance agreements for FY 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For item 5, as well as item 6, these items are authorizations to continue in the case of item 5, hardware and maintenance agreement, and item 6, software services. Each of these items has previously been approved or authorized through the board. These are continuations of existing contracts. I'd like to invite TJ Thornall from our IT team. TJ is responsible for service development management as part of our accessible transportation and technology team. TJ, please.
Thank you, Jessica. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Before I launch into the specifics of the authorization request, I have a few words on the approach to these memos. As Jessica had alluded to, we have found that grouping the renewals of pre-existing authorizations into fewer memos gives greater visibility and takes up less time. Any new items will still be individually brought before the board for review and approval. We typically default to annual renewals because this gives us greater flexibility and authorization and aligns better with the board or with the budget cycle. However, we will seek multi-year authorization and renewal approval if that's the only option or if it's financially beneficial. Since the authorization for multi-year agreements come up irregularly, it would not be useful to compare them since some years have more multi-year agreements than others. With that, I'd like to start with the first memo, which is the authorization to continue purchase of IT hardware and maintenance agreements in FY25. This memo comprises of purchases mainly of end user devices, networking equipment, and our primary and secondary storage replacement. The lifespan of this equipment is between 5 and 7 years, and the storage equipment is coming up on end of support from our vendor. We have, however, been looking for ways to reduce this big spike that we've seen this year, and we were able to do that by 50% by spreading the cost out over the fiscal years of 24, 25, and 26. Any questions to this?
Rolling them together, I'm sorry.
I so move.
I second.
There you go.
Okay,
Thank you.
I've got them.
You're already out the door.
I'm already out the door, yeah. And this is just for item 5. I think I got confused when you talked about 5 and 6 together. Okay. So I've got a motion and a second for item 5. Any questions?
I did.
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you so much for sharing the information. As I was taking a look at the agenda, and I would have to say, looking at 5, 6, and 7, I really want us to be able to align IT cost expenses, if we can, with the budgeting process. I find this a challenge to kind of take a look at all these numbers after we've approved our budget. I know there's line items in there for that, but I think it would help align how we look at managing the space that you're in. And great when those multi-year contracts come up, but I think if we have this information before we approve our final budget, that makes it a little bit helpful, and it kind of streamlines how we think about the spending. But other than that, I think this is necessary. Being able to have visited a Caltrans dispatch area that was shared with California Highway Patrol. I just want us to continue to make sure we have cutting edge technology here for Valley Metro RPTA and that we get the sensible funding in place to support your needs to provide for our clients and our people.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your comments, Councilmember White. Each of the items before you today are included in the FY25 budget. Most of them are in the continuing commitments category. Some of them are, however, in the new initiatives category, including not on agenda item 5, but really 6 and 7 when we're talking about service contracts and software as service subscriptions. I think we're actually in the process of reformatting our board memo format, and we'll have that rolled out for our August cycle. We can reference budget source for each of these items. That would be helpful.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, item 6 is the authorization to continue the purchase of IT professional services.
Yes, thank you. So Valley Metro hires professional services when it's more cost effective or requires a specific skill set that's rarely used on our team. The amount requested this year, I'd like to point out though, is less than FY24 due to our key conference rooms being completed last year's fiscal year. Any questions?
Okay. May I have a motion,
I move
For
item
item
number
6.
6. I second.
a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Item 7 is the authorization to continue the purchase of software subscriptions and maintenance agreements for FY25.
Yes, thank you. For this last one that I'm presenting today, this memo covers 26 products. It also is a significant increase compared to FY24. However, the vast majority of this is 3 products that are seeing multi-year renewals. As a result, you're seeing 3 to 4 years of authorization in this fiscal year. This includes our Enterprise Asset Management, or our EAM, our VMware, which is our server infrastructure environment, and the ERP, which is the accounting and procurement system. By contrast, I'd like to point out that you'll see the year-over-year cost for the EAM is actually only 6%. Any questions?
All right, I'll take a motion to approve item number 7.
So moved.
Let me do the motion and then we'll
Okay.
let in discussion. So can I have a motion
I move.
Second.
and a second? Okay, now open for discussion, Councilmember.
Thank you very much. I have a question. There's Trapeze EAM, and it went from 334 to 671,000. And I'd like to know if you can explain a little bit more. That's a double increase.
That was due to just the increase of the cost of that. I don't have any of the specifics of it offhand.
Happy
But
to answer that.
if Jessica,
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember McMahon. Trapeze Enterprise Asset Management is our module for tracking our state of good repair. We are in the process of developing our transit asset management program and populating EAM. This will include an inventory of all of our transit assets. That's everything from equipment to facilities and their attendant components. Within that system, we track the asset condition, the parts needs, the maintenance performed throughout its life cycle. So it really is a cradle to grave capital asset management program. So the cost increase is because we are moving into the maturity of Trapeze Enterprise Asset Management. We've got a new team that's been assembled under the leadership of our Chief Maintenance Officer, Darren Curry. So we have gone from our infancy to maturity with EAM. It's an important investment. It's one that we have not undertaken in this detail in the past, but it is one that we must. And transit asset management is now a requirement of the Federal Transit Administration.
thank you, Jessica.
Great. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, item 8 is the Allied Universal Security Services Contract Change Order on wage raises.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As Adrian Rees, the Director of Safety, Security, and Quality Assurance is approaching the podium, I want to provide a little bit of background on this item. We are coming before the joint board today to request an increase in wage rates that we expect to fall within our current contract ceiling. So within FY '25, we do not anticipate additional cost beyond that which is budgeted for this contract. If there is additional cost, that would be presented back to the board through a mid-year budget adjustment toward the end of this calendar year. This is coming before the joint board today, but it has been previously considered by the Valley Metro Rail Board in a series of executive session conversations, as the lion's share of our Allied Universal Security contract is devoted to Valley Metro Rail. In fact, 97.6% of that spend is a VMR spend. 2.4% of that spend is an RPTA spend, and that's primarily through security services at the Mesa Greenfield Bus Operations and Maintenance Facility. Adrian is here this morning to walk you through some background, including our current wage rates and our target wage rates for Allied Universal Security. Our objective in presenting this item to you this morning is to improve our resource level on the Allied Universal Security contract. We have come from a 50% vacancy rate just 2 years ago. Now we're hovering just over a 20% vacancy rate, which is tremendous progress. But we are having trouble closing that gap, and we need to staff this contract to create a safe and secure environment for our customers. Adrian, would you mind walking us through the details, please?
Yes, thank you, Jessica. You can advance the next slide. Thank you. Mr. Chair, members of the joint board, let me cover a little bit of background first, not to reiterate what Jessica already said. Great introduction to this presentation. Is that we have done a lot of work with Allied, including a letter of concern following the 56% vacancy rate last winter. That letter of concern was then revised, but we were under a performance management for the contractor. Keeping in mind also that what we also allocated was some underrun to fill supervisor vacancies, which I'll cover in the next slide. Adding those field security officer advocates, that was at no cost to the agency. Allied Universal decided that they would have a touch point with staff out in the field to make sure they're supported and equipped and tooled and trained. Anything they need out in the field, that advocate is there for them. Looking at also the training for Allied, we noticed that over the course of the last several weeks, months, the training was falling behind. There was a push to fill positions and putting academies on every week, and that was stressing the recruitment and the training component for the contract. So they've gone back to every 2 weeks. We've also rewritten the exam with Allied, so that also has helped. Looking at also moving forward, actually go back to the next slide. Moving forward, we have this summer, probably in July, next month, we're going to put an RFP out on the street to acquire some bids and proposals for this contract. In addition, we're looking at spring and summer of next year, about this time next year, having a new contractor. Next slide. So putting these wage rates in perspective, to put this in context, right now, based on the wage rate, this is an Economic Research Institute, or ERI, metropolitan Phoenix area, looking at percentiles of the market research. We are right now recruiting and hiring below the 10th percentile. The 10th percentile for ERI for the metropolitan region is about $22.16 an hour. And right now the wage rates are $19.86 for FSOs. So going to 55th percentile, the reason that was chosen is it puts us kind of in the sweet spot in the middle of getting folks who have the emotional intelligence, the capacity, the education experience to come in to do this very high touch point, high risk, high exposure type of work that involves civil enforcement. I know Don Schneidmiller presented at the committee a few weeks ago and talked about the challenges with having folks doing this type of work in a civil capacity. It's very difficult and it's very dynamic. Looking at key points or takeaways, if this is approved today, currently sitting at about a 20% vacancy rate, all of that is very well and above where we were at 56%. It still puts us basically in a position where we just can't meet that objective of closing that 10% or less vacancy. Also, what it also puts us at is this retention and quality of candidate. So with this 55th percentile, it gives us more quality candidate coming in the door to go at a higher hourly rate. In addition, what I mentioned earlier about the supervisory component, we are still at 7 vacancies out of over 22 for the field security supervisors. And that frontline first level supervisor still remains stagnant at about 7 to 9 vacancies pretty consistently. So that means we have less eyes and ears to supervise folks in the field, to provide that support, that guidance and direction, and that puts us at a disadvantage. Only 94% really divides the two currently. So that gap in wage rate right now sits at about less than $1 from FSO to field security supervisor. So that would definitely improve that retention and also hiring. So the quality and the space and allow for more scrutinized selection recruitment process. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, Vice Mayor, go ahead.
Yes, I have a couple questions. One is on the 55th percentile, like where are we, if we go forward with this, where are we compared to other cities in the country that have the metro and transportation?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. We did do some benchmarking, and it's difficult to find agencies just exactly like ours that have civil enforcement and are unarmed and doing fair compliance and fair inspection. So our ranges, we're still below, and looking at quality of life, knowing our quality of life is a little higher, we are still well below that market research with agencies, as close to similar as we can get with our system.
Okay, and how will the real-time communication center interface with this at all? Or where are we with that?
That's a great question also. Real-time crime. So right now we have Mesa up and running since last September. So they do have access to our platform cameras. I believe Tempe will be next in line. Phoenix does have a Northwest Valley real-time crime up and running. So we're working through agreements with those 2 cities, and we'll be ready to go as soon as those cities are ready.
When they're all ready, will it affect how many employees we need, or do you think the employees are still being needed?
With the current staffing we have, in order to, again, to close the gap until we have a new RFP out on the street and a new contract, this will provide extra eyes and ears on the system, close those gaps and put more presence on the system, allowing for us to either report, notify those real-time crime centers of incidents, and vice versa. So when they have an incident they're observing in real time, they can let our field teams know, and that puts extra people on the system. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
If I may, Mr. Chair, Vice Mayor Adams, the forthcoming RFP for contract security services that we're working on now and will hit the streets this fall does address some changes in how we approach monitoring of the CCTV system and the associated dispatch of security personnel. So this item before you today doesn't directly move the needle on that, but the forthcoming contract model will.
And do we know how many cities are going to start, having the real-time crime communication center by any chance?
Thank you for the question. Right now, there's 3,
Okay.
Mesa, Phoenix, and Tempe.
So I would just encourage all cities around here to have that. Thank you.
We have one. Glendale was the first one.
Good.
And we're building one.
We don't have light rail, but we have the crime center.
Oh, good.
We're building one as well.
Oh, good.
I know.
Hear that.
So, any other questions on this? Okay, so I will entertain a motion to approve item 8.
So moved.
Second.
A motion in a second. Vice Mayor Goodman, we've already heard from Councilmember Pastor.
It's between,
I know,
it's you and me, kid.
I know.
I do have
So now you have discussion?
yes,
Okay.
I do.
You have the floor.
Thank you. I just want to thank staff for really looking at this and doing the due diligence of the work. Adrian, this has been a hard task in the sense of we've been talking about this for, I want to say 2.5 years or ever since I've entered. And really looking at the data and seeing where our gaps are. So I want to thank everybody that has been part of this and doing what we need to do. I do understand intimately the gap in the hiring because we are looking for a skilled and quality candidate that understands people and human behavior and how to be able to give compassion, but also at the same time be stern on what is right and what is wrong, and also be able then to have enforce police to be able then to enforce when there is bad behavior. And so it's a team that works together, and I'm glad and I'm proud of the fact that we have been able to move the needle to where we are today. As Vice Mayor stated, Adams, we do need other cities to come along. I need our city to really engage and be the leaders that we are in order for this to happen all the way around. So I'm just saying thanks and kudos to everybody for doing this. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. All right, item 9 is the General Consulting Support Services Contract Award.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Trevor Collin is going to approach the podium and provide a brief presentation on our general consulting support services contract.
Thank you, Jessica, Chair Stitt, members of the board. Our general consulting support services contract is a very fancy sounding name. But what we're really looking at is a wide variety of technical services, professional services from engineering, architecture, cost estimating, real estate support. And we use this through a wide variety of both rail and bus projects. And that's why we're presenting this today before the joint board. Some highlights that this is kind of marketing for me, but we do partner oftentimes with cities on transit improvements, including Park and Rides, recently completed Avondale Transit Center. Thank you. We did the design of the Park and Ride expansion in the city of Buckeye. And of course, we do quite a bit of rail state of good repair. So to compare this to some of our larger design contracts for our rail extensions, this is more miscellaneous. And these task orders are assigned task order by task order basis, funding sources identified, and it's a mixture of funding sources. The action before you is to award a contract to Arcadis US Incorporated, a 5-year term with 3 option years. We're requesting expenditure authority of not to exceed $15.4 million. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion then for the General Contracting Support Services Contract.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Goodman, second by Councilmember White. Any discussion?
Chair.
Yes,
I
Matt.
just wanted to thank you and recognize the fact that it's really important for us to have this available to us as cities and towns throughout the county to be able to go and procure and have some consistency in how we deliver the service. So I think that being able to have consulting support services through this project management pathway, it was a benefit. And if you've ever gotten a chance to come out to Avondale Park and Ride, you'll notice how beautiful it is. So I really love the design. It flows with the community, and I'm definitely a huge advocate. So step off my soapbox. Thank you.
Awesome. Get over to you. Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Item 10 is the multi-temporary staffing services and related solutions cooperative contract.
A long name. Ken Kessler, CFO, is here to provide you with detailed information. Just as a matter of reference, our FY24 year-to-date expenditure on our current temporary staffing contract is $3.364 million. About 95% of those funds are being expended for IT services. Some of those funds are also being expended for marketing and operations support and various projects, including, for example, our fare collection system modernization. Ken, do you want to walk us through the nuts and bolts of this contract?
Thank you, Jessica. Yes. Chair, members of the boards, I'll walk us through this very quickly. In brief, we're requesting authorization to execute cooperative contracts for temp staffing services. As Jessica mentioned, the lion's share of this work, Steph, could you advance? There we go. The lion's share of this work is related to IT. And we have a few other areas where we use it, as Jessica mentioned as well. We're looking at utilizing three avenues for entering into these cooperative contracts: the Arizona State Procurement Office, the Mojave Cooperative, and the Strategic Alliance for Volume Expenditures. Those last two are basic public sector consortiums for purchasing and volume and be able to get greater price or better pricing at greater discounts. We are looking at having this authorization for the beginning of next fiscal year through the end of calendar year 28. That aligns with the duration of the State Procurement Office contracts. And the overall request here with contingency is about $24.1 million. And just a little background on the IT staffing component that we utilize this for. We're looking for basically support for the service desk team, the information security and development teams, and it also reduces the need for in-house FTEs required to administer our ERP system, and also provides for a temporary fill for technical roles with specialized skills that we may not have those skills within the organization or may not warrant, a full FTE. So these contracts give us that flexibility to kind of fill those functions. And just quickly on some of the changes to the estimated costs over the next 5 years, we're requesting authorization for a number of things. Service desk tech to be added in FY25, and then some development services work in FY25 and 27 for digital expansion that we have planned in our strategic plan. We have expected increase in vacancies in FY26, and then one InfoSec role for 26 dedicated to operational technology systems, and another one in 27 for our information technology systems. And then lastly, our current 5-year service desk contract ends in FY27, and there's an expectation with the new contract we'll see an increase there. So that's kind of factored into the estimates for this request. And then on the non-IT side, the basic uses there are to temporarily backfill as we have vacancies and we're going through the process for filling positions. It's also to extend resources that we use on a temporary basis for projects where it doesn't make sense to bring in an FTE. We just need some technical assistance on a short-term basis there. And then again, if we need some specialized skills we don't have in-house to utilize on a temporary basis. So those are kind of the three primary categories of need for use in those other areas. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for? No. Ken, I do have one. You've got IT positions that you're focusing on here, but we also have professional services, item number 6 today that we've already previously approved. How and why are these separated in this regard?
Sure. So the professional services are when we basically pay a firm to perform the work. So we're engaging a firm overall. It may not be a specific individual. For this is I ask for going through a temp agency that provides an individual to fill a role on a temporary basis.
Well, I understand this slide, but the previous slide, those are IT positions. So why are we not rolling all the IT things into one?
For that,
You kind of see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Mr. Chair. The prior contract before you was for IT solutions on an ongoing basis where we do contract with firm X, and firm X then fields a team. Typically, they're supporting entire functions such as help desk, for example. The membership of that team may vary, but they're responsible for that overall function. In this instance, and by the way, those relationships are typically longer in duration. In this particular contract, shorter duration relationships with individuals procured through staffing firms to fill a need that is truly temporary.
Okay. Good enough. All right, if there are no other questions, then I'll take a motion to approve item 10.
Move approval of item 10.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Item 11 is the strategic plan goal indicators. As you recall, when we approved the strategic plan, we did ask for, we asked for regular updates. They're being provided to us. So I didn't mean to take too much wind out of your sails, but this is a board ask. So Jessica, this is back to you.
Thank you. As we are in the early stages of implementation of the strategic plan, which the board adopted back in January, we wanted to come before you today to share and request your feedback on our goal indicators. Within the strategic plan, we identified a number of goals. Within that, staff has been working to develop specific initiatives that are going to position us to achieve those goals, but we can only know if we have made progress on those goals if we have ways to measure it. In the FY25 budget, you saw a few different budget items included that are going to help us measure those goals, including software, tools like Swiftly that's helping us real-time monitor our operations performance. You also saw an increase in our market research budget so that we can conduct more pulse point surveys with our existing customers, former customers, general public, our member cities, our board, and our staff. And here, Jim Hilliard is actually going to join us today to give you a little bit of a blueprint on how we're going to measure those specific initiatives and know how we're performing and ultimately whether or not or the extent to which we're actually attaining our goals. Remember, this is a 5-year strategic plan, so we're not going to hit every goal in year 1, but by the end of year 5, we aim to. This is a strategic business plan. It does not include goals or initiatives that are what I like to call squishy. These are very specific strategies and intended outcomes associated with them. Jim.
Thank you, Jessica. Mr. Chairman, members. I'd like to start out by just briefly reviewing both the breadth of our goals and then a little bit of the structure of the plan. And then really we'll just simply turn to the table in your memo that identifies the indicators for each goal so that we can get answer your questions and get your feedback. So as you can see here, our overarching goal of our strategic plan is to connect communities and enhance lives through delivering an excellent customer experience. The key means to that ends are really reflected in goals 2 through 5. Those assume a level of organizational health and effectiveness that we also capture in goals 6 through 9. So with respect to the structure of the plan, those 9 goals are intended to endure, as Jessica said, over the entire 5 years of the strategic plan. And we'll be measuring our progress toward impacting those through the indicators that we talk about today. At the level below that, you helped us identify a number of initiatives, essentially strategies that we'll use to move the needle on those goals. Each of those strategies has its own sort of life cycle. Some of those will persist across the 5 years of the plan. For example, optimizing service performance we'll never stop working on. Others, like establishing a customer experience program, we would hope to have completed in the next 18 months or so. Each of the initiatives will also have performance measures that we use to understand, is that initiative achieving what it intended to achieve? We'll implement the initiatives on that bottommost level of actions. The actions are annual in nature. As Jessica mentioned, you've already seen a number of those referenced in the budget where they required resources in the upcoming fiscal year. There are many other actions that don't require new resources, and I'll be starting to present those to you at our August meeting, where for 5 of the goals, we'll go over the actions associated with the initiatives that we intend to implement in FY25. For the other 4 goals, we'll pick that up in the next quarterly reporting cycle to you. We'll manage those particular actions with project plans because that's what they are. And so just to kind of touch then on the alignment between those three levels, for example, one of our goals is to have an excellent customer experience. An initiative that you approved to achieve that goal was to innovate, integrate mobility solutions. And so the action that we'll be taking in FY25 to accomplish that is to integrate into our existing VM mobile apps trip planning function the microtransit services that a number of West Valley cities have implemented, so that folks have the option of using microtransit as a first mile, last mile connector for regional trips. So we'll have a particular project plan for that integration, and that we'll manage to completion during the course of FY25, and we'll be sharing that with you in our quarterly updates so you can see, are we doing what we said we would do? We'll then, once implemented, be looking at, are people using that functionality and do they like it? And so if both of those things are true, then we would expect at the goal indicator level for us to see an increase in overall net promoter score, and then ultimately people voting with their feet to use transit more because they like the services that we're offering and the accessibility that microtransit provides. And so that gives you a sense of how these three different levels align. With respect to the indicators that we'll be discussing today, there's really 4 criteria that we had in mind in thinking them through. The first and obviously most important was that it's reflective of progress on the goal. We want to see if we're moving in the right direction on all of these very broad goals. The second was that it's reflective of a wide range of inputs. Our goals are broad enough that we could easily have 200 measures associated with them. Rather than that, what we tried to identify were particular indicators that were reflective of a bunch of different inputs. And so on-time performance as a measure of operational excellence is a good example. So OTP is really a reflection of, did you have the staff that we needed to provide those trips? Is your maintenance function effective so that we have fleet available and that fleet not breaking down en route? Do we have supervision in place at our contractors to ensure that we're getting on-time pullouts for the morning and evening shifts? And is our service planning function effectively engaging, estimating runtime, so that we're setting time points for the stops that folks are actually able to make given traffic conditions, et cetera? So OTP sort of encompasses a broad range of different important functions below. If we see OTP not moving in the direction that we needed to move, then it's triggering us to go dive into those deeper measures to understand why is that happening and what do we need to do to impact it. Thirdly, we're looking for a blend of objective measures, meaning counting something real, and subjective measures, essentially meaning asking people how they feel about the thing, because we think having both of those perspectives is important. So for example, on the table, you'll note that we have measures for actual security incidents, and we have a survey that's asking folks how they feel about security on the transit system. And so if we're not seeing those measures moving in the same direction, if we're actually seeing a reduction in security, but people aren't feeling safer, then that's telling us something's amiss, right? That we either have a mismatch in expectations with our riders, or maybe we're not communicating effectively, or maybe we're counting the wrong things. And so we think having both of those perspectives is very important, and it makes the data richer in our use. I think the last criteria that we sought in indicators for our goals was efficiency. So everything you do has an opportunity cost, and counting and reporting things is administrative overhead that we're not actually using serving customers. And so we want to make sure that we've got as few and as powerful a measures as possible, and whenever possible, that we're using stuff we already have. And so with that as a transition, I'll ask you to turn to the table on page 2 of your memo. So you see there rows for each of the 9 goals in our strategic plan. And the titles of the measures in the second column, you'll note some are in plain text. If it's in plain text, that's something we already collect and already have. Titles that are in italics are new measures that we would need to develop. And so you can see in many cases where we're trying to use, in most cases, we're trying to use data that we already have. Where we don't have that data is primarily in those subjective areas of better understanding how folks are feeling about a particular area. And there we see the need to develop additional tools to gather that information through surveys or focus groups or other means. To the right of the title of the measure, you see the mode. So if it's a transit specific measure, all means bus, rail, streetcar, and paratransit, both ride choice and ADA. So we're calling out the mode that it's applicable to. The source is just giving you a sense of where we would get that data. And then the frequency is really the frequency with which we would be reporting out on that particular thing. So for example, complaints or boardings, I mean, we have that data on an hourly basis. If needed, we would simply be reporting it to you in a monthly format so that you can see progress over time in a way that's broad enough to be meaningful and not so granular to hide the larger trends that we're keying on. The one last thing I want to correct in looking at the table is on page 2 under operational excellence. One of our metrics is percentage of completed trips. The mode there is reflected as bus and rail. However, an excellent point from City of Mesa at TMC RMC was that we need to make sure that also includes paratransit and ride choice. It absolutely will. I just forgot to update the table. So with that kind of introduction of both what we were thinking in putting these indicators together, the role that they'll provide both in our implementation of the strategic plan and our reporting to you, and then how to read the table. If there are questions I can answer, I'd be delighted. If you have feedback, we'd really appreciate it.
All right, since this item is presented for information only, we'll just jump right into questions. So Vice Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Hilliard, a couple of things. So this is essentially the first iteration of operationalizing this 5-year strategic plan. And I think those of us that have been involved with these things, they mature over time. So hope that year 5 is much more refined than year 1. But I think we can do that. The other comment is data needs to inform folks. And I didn't see anything in here on how these metrics are going to be reported back to the board. Is there going to be a dashboard, green light, yellow light, red light kind of thing? And more importantly, how are the employees going to be made aware of all of this? And, they're the front face to most of what's detailed here. How are they going to know they're doing a good job or not and moving this forward?
Thank you for those questions. Let me start with the last one and then because it's a bit more granular, and then go back to how we're going to keep you folks in the loop on these. So you're absolutely right. Measures that aren't connected to the day-to-day work that our staff are doing are window dressing because they're not actually driving performance. And so the method that we'll be using to implement the actions that then accomplish the initiatives that then move the needle on the goals is we've identified for each particular initiative and its actions for this year, who needs to be involved in that. We're pulling together teams because many of them are cross-cutting. Those teams are going to be working to develop the implementation plans for those initiatives. It's then the job of the members of that team from each division to be taking that plan back to their team and connecting it to the performance measures and the actions that they use on a day-to-day basis. And my objective is to essentially have a dashboard that each division is using that is reflective of the work that they're doing in support of these actions so that they can see both, again, are they doing their part, and then are they seeing the result that's needed, and then they're communicating through that team representative back to the group that's managing the initiative. Because as we all know, no plan survives first contact with reality, and so we'll put together a perfectly good plan, and folks will go and do their best to implement it, and they're going to find that some things work and some things don't, and being able to communicate back to say, oh, hey, wait a minute, this seemed like a good idea on paper, but it's not working, and then for us to be able to adjust is going to be absolutely critical. So a long answer to summarize as what we're presenting to you here today at the indicator level is being cascaded down into very specific operational metrics and action plans at the division level so that everybody in every division is aware of, like, we're doing this to impact that. And if it's not working, then we can have a discussion about what we need to do differently. With respect to reporting to the board, I didn't include a slide here, I apologize, but as part of adoption of the strategic plan, we proposed and you agreed to quarterly reports on the strategic plan implementation and results. And because we had 9 measures, 9 goals, we didn't think we could do all 9 of those in any one quarter, that it would just become overwhelming. And so we divided the goals into 2 groups, a group of 5 and a group of 4. And one of those is a little more customer facing in nature. The other is a little more internal facing in nature. And so we'll be coming back on a quarterly basis, essentially twice for each goal throughout the year, and reporting back to you on what are we seeing. One of Chair Stipp's points was that it's important that we're communicating what we're doing, what results we're seeing, but we need to do that in a very succinct way. And so I think what I'm anticipating, and we'll get feedback on your perspective after we've done that first update, is a document that has, as you say, sort of here's what we said we would do, here's where we are on doing that or not in a document, and then these top measure indicators of are we seeing movement in the direction that we would anticipate, red, yellow, green. Recognizing that our measures are deliberately broad because they're trying to capture a lot of important effort. And so, we have as one indicator of an excellent customer experience boardings. And boardings will absolutely be impacted by the quality of service that we provide, by the security that our riders feel. It's also going to be impacted by the price of gas. And so we've deliberately called these indicators as opposed to performance measures, and recognizing that that we'll need to have some discussion about what impact we believe we're having on that regular quarterly basis.
Hey, going back to your comment that they're overly broad, these measures, if I got that correct, that when everything is important, nothing's important. So I think as the team gets used to this kind of a process, it's going to be important to identify which of those measures are critical and, which do you need to know and which are nice to know. Because again, when there's so many things to focus on, they're not looking at the things that are most important. And that's part of that maturation process, I think, that comes forward with it. The other comment that I want to make is how be very deliberate with how you engage employees in this and not tell them what to do, but ask them how to do it. They're the ones doing the job. They're the ones that are going to know where efficiencies can be made and not made. And if they're so focused on the framework of all of this, they're losing sight of what it's supposed to do. So just, again, lessons from my past that where things worked and where things, we struggled a little bit. Try to simplify it as much as possible and focus on the things that are really important. And my last comment on reports back to the board, and I said that, green light, yellow light, red light kind of things. The things that I want to look for if I see a yellow light or a red light is not just that it's yellow or red, but what is Valley Metro doing to turn those things into green? So not just report back, but what actions are being taken to improve that particular activity. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Questions down here? Let me start at the very end and then we'll work back.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, Jim. You're still here.
Well, you can see I'm half retired already from,
I'm happy
I'll be sipping mint juleps by 3.
come in shorts and a t-shirt. Thank you for the presentation. I'm just curious about the dashboard, what's facing the employees and how up to date is the information they're going to be getting? Are they going to be able to get a broad look across all platforms of service or just specifically what they're doing? I just want to have a better understanding of what the employees are going to see.
Absolutely. That's absolutely our objective. It's not in place. Well, it's partially in place today. So there are a number of areas where we've got dashboards that are pulling in data that is near real time. It's lagging a day or so through existing tools. We're in the process, in partnership with City of Phoenix, implementing a new operations reporting tool called Swiftly that we knew was going to give us much richer data on things like on-time performance and missed trips and those kinds of things. That will be a data source for this dashboard. So I think your objective and our vision is absolutely aligned. And Councilmember Goodman's point, it is going to be a work in progress. So we'll continue to build those out. In lots of cases, especially at the line level, the things that are going to be most meaningful to staff are the things that they're doing or counting anyway. So did we get the performance, did we get the preventive maintenance work that was scheduled for the month of June done in the month of June? Like they know that, they have that data. And that's an important leading indicator for, will our rail service be reliable because it's not breaking down? So yes, that's exactly what we're working towards. We've got some good foundational pieces in place. We've got some new pieces coming online here soon, which I think are going to be helpful. And as we continue to build that out, if you'd like to, come out and see, my goal is for us to literally have, a board in the OMC and in every division's office where staff can stand around as part of a daily or a weekly stand-up and look at the data and say, okay, what are we seeing in terms of our performance as a team? And where can we be doing, where are the problems that we need to solve? Where can we be doing better? And that team is then empowered to problem solve because they're all looking at it together and making things better. Because, as Mr. Kuhn said, it's at that line level that real progress happens.
I agree. Mr. Chair, if I could just follow up. So, I know that a lot of the data is available in real time and it's good that you're going to be able to get feedback and upload it or however you're going to do it faster. But is it going to be a inclusive look? Let's say, for example, a maintenance issue, while they understand that they've got to get the job done, but there's downstream effects to that it's, it's going to be helpful to them to see that, things getting behind in this category has an effect over here, so they can see big picture on the platform.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely needs to, because that alignment's key. You're not just doing it to do it. You're doing it because we're trying to achieve these goals.
They don't want to have silos. They want to know this is everybody's thing. Okay,
Definitely.
thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you so much for the presentation as well. If you can go back just one more slide. I'm going to actually be speaking to the measures though, and I'm only going to get granular just because I want to make sure.
Stephanie, can you go back one slide? This clicker isn't.
Thank you so much.
Working.
Thank you. There we go.
There we go.
So as I take a look at this slide, I'm processing through the granular slide and our leadership and execution. I think the source of the feedback that we're going to get, that's going to be the Valley Metro employee survey, and that's kind of be annually. And then the board governance, that's going to be a board survey. We're going to get that back annually. I just wanted to throw out there, even though I'm kind of getting granular on this aspect, I noticed that we're getting survey results and survey information, but I don't want us to not ask the opposing party. So I think when I think about good governance, that's normally the people that those people serve that give you that feedback. And so I guess when I think about a board survey, was that in terms of us being surveyed, or is that going to be a survey of how we are also evaluating what's going on in front of us? How are those measures? Because does Valley Metro staff trust us?
Mm-hmm.
That I think is just as equally as important as do we trust how the leadership is executing? So I think we have to be mindful with surveys, because you survey certain populations, you can survey for the results and outcome that you really want. But we want our surveys to actually be valuable and contribute to the overall success of Valley Metro. And good governance really takes a look at the mirror. We have to see ourselves and that reflection of what we're doing coming right back at us.
That is such an excellent point. Thank you very much. I've made a note. I think our initial intent in putting this together was that we would work with your staff and your intergovs to put together a survey tool where you guys could essentially evaluate how you feel about both the support that you get from us and about your ability to set regional policy. But I think your flip side of does the agency feel it's getting the guidance that it needs to be effective is excellent. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Good job.
Thanks, Mayor.
I think you already said this, but just for clarification purposes, are we also surveying the employees as far as their satisfaction?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yep,
that's what I thought.
absolutely.
I just wanted to
Yep.
make sure.
Critical.
So we're going 360.
Yep,
So it's-
and in several different areas. What we're showing here are a couple of the higher level roll-ups about, for example, under staff under leadership and execution will be asking, do you understand how your work aligns with our strategic plan goals? Because if they don't have that visibility, then back to the point the Councilmember Tomlichoff was making, what have you accomplished? But we're also going to ask more detailed questions, for example, about do you feel like you have the ability to grow within Valley Metro and that you're getting the training do you need? And a number of other things that help us sort of peel that onion back and really understand how we can make the best with our workforce.
Okay, thank you so much for the clarification.
Okay, the only, I'm appreciative that we're coming to this point, and that we're going to hopefully use this plan to kind of guide us going forward. Great discussion by everybody. Great questions, I think, are very insightful. I think it would be helpful for the board, for you collectively, you all, I spent a little time in the South not too long ago, for all y'all, to share what those performance measurements are with the board. I realize it's probably, you think it may just be a management tool, but if you want board buy-in, we need to see what they are. And right now, we have this slide, which we've seen before on our strategic goals, and we have the next slide, which didn't really tell me anything. What are we measuring? How are we measuring it? What are those indicators? Because for us, the only indicator is people are not complaining. We're not getting people coming to the board meeting complaining about being late for work, potentially getting fired, or we're not hearing from residents who are complaining about X. That is our only way to measure what is happening unless you are telling us what the rest of it is. So please share those performance measures with the board so that we have some idea of what story we're trying to tell and where we think that this is headed, because I think then we build that true partnership between the board and the leadership and management of the organization, which then gets to the point of how do the employees feel about us? Well, if we're blind, then we can't be doing as an effective job, et cetera. So bring us into the fold and help us help you going forward. So thank you for the presentation.
Will do. Thank you.
All right, item 12 is for information only that was presented in our packet, which is the travel and expenditures. Item 13 is the joint boards of directors may vote to enter executive session to discuss amendments to the contract for Valley Metro's chief executive officers as authorized by Arizona Revised Statute, section 38-431.03A1, 3, and 4. May I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
You decide.
I'll let Pat decide. Before I take the vote, Pat, are there directions for those that are online on how to join?
Yes, sir. You, board members that are online, you were provided with a confidential link to log into. You'll have to log out of this meeting first, please, and then log into the confidential link. And then when the executive session is over, we'll come back to this open meeting link.
Okay, with that, all in favor of going into the executive session?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. All right, we're going to go ahead and reconvene the joint board and move into item 14, which is the executive session action item. And I will entertain a motion that we approve the third amendment to the CEO's work agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? The only thing I'd like to say, Jessica, is how much I think this board values the work that you've done, the team that you've built, and the effort that everybody has put together. Valley Metro has really gone through a major transformation, most of which has been under your direction. So thank you for all the hard work and then that of your team.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the full board. I truly appreciate your trust and your confidence in me and in the Valley Metro team.
So with that, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Item 15 is a report on current events and suggested future agenda items. I am not seeing any. The next meeting will be August 22nd of 2024 at 11:15. And that adjourns the joint board. We'll go right into the RPTA meeting. RPTA board agenda, item 1 is the consent, which is item A, minutes. Item B, the AHO service, which is Route 685 intergovernmental agreement. 1C is the City of Phoenix grant pass-through intergovernmental agreements. 1D is the review of the bus non-rail mode public transportation agency safety plan. And that is the consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve?
I move approval of the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Anybody wish to pull any? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. All right, item 2 is the West Valley fixed route bus service contract change order.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tom Young, Deputy Chief of Bus and Paratransit Operations, is here to present this item. This is a change order to our existing contract with National Express. This would extend this contract, allowing us to re-procure this contract. Mr. Young.
Thank you, Jessica, and I think you just took my first 2 sentences, so I'll make this real brief at this point. Chair Stipp, members of the board, as Jessica just said, this is a request for a 1 3-year extension on the National Express contract. What I will say about the contract is that it does have a clause for cancellation for convenience, and we've communicated with the contractor that our intent is to re-procure this service and not take the full 3 years of the contract. The prices that they've given us for the extension of the contract, primarily for us fiscal year 25, is only about a 1.5% increase from the current contract. So we're requesting the authority to extend this contract to afford us time for re-procurement.
That it? Okay. So I'd like to have a motion to approve the change order to the West Valley fixed route bus service.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by
Dude,
It's very tight.
Councilmember White.
whichever.
West Valley.
Yeah, West Valley is in the lead.
Second by
We're on the
Councilmember.
stretch.
And I have lost, not that I had any control. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Item 2 is the sublease agreement with Total Transit. I assume this is related.
Thank you, Chair Stipp, members of the board. This request is for a sublease of the current facility that is operated or operates our West Valley by National Express or Total Transit. One of the barriers in procuring providers on the West Valley has always been their requirement to find a facility. With real estate in the West Valley right now and the cost of that real estate, it has, like I said, become a barrier. We feel by leasing this, we're not only providing a facility for potential providers as we re-procure the service, but we have found out that it's a substantially reduced cost if we directly provide the facility based on the last time around when other providers did look at the cost of facilities and making them operational for transit. So once again, request to sublease this facility. The term of the sublease is the full term that Total Transit has leased this facility. And we're leasing it with the intent until we find the permanent solution for a West Side facility. I can answer any questions.
Anybody have questions on this item?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the sublease agreement with Total Transit. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Let's have it. All right, item 4 is the fiscal year election of Valley Metro RPTA board officers and subcommittees. Before us today is the board officers, RPTA board chair, Vice Mayor Odie Harris, who conveniently is not here today. RPTA board vice chair is Vice Mayor Jennifer Adams from Tempe. And our PTA board treasurer is Councilmember, the nomination is for Councilmember Max White. Do we need to do this all at once or each of those grouping separately? Okay. As far as, and then the joint, the Valley Metro RPTA, Valley Metro Rail Joint Board Subcommittee, there are 2 positions available on that. One would go to the new incoming chair, which is Vice Mayor Odie Harris. And the second would be Councilmember Allie Klein of Surprise, representing the West Valley. The third subcommittee that is open is the Audit and Finance Subcommittee. We did receive a letter today from one board member, which will be carried over until August due to anticipated board member changes happening potentially over the summer, which we should know at the end of the primary season, which ends in July. We are suggesting that the 2 vacancies on the Audit and Finance Subcommittee be filled at the August 22nd board meeting of our PTA. So questions on any of that? If not, I will entertain a motion for the slate of officers for the RPTA board and the RPTA Valley Metro Joint Board Subcommittee.
I move we accept the slate of officers for the RTA Joint Board and Valley Metro.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Congratulations to the new board members. Report on current events and suggested future agenda items.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to have a moment of personal privilege if I could.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pass that down to Bill. That's a thank you. The notes that's been signed by the board. And I think being the person, I think in the room that served the longest on this board with you, I just want to say that it's been a real pleasure. You've really put a lot of work into your position, taken on a lot of responsibility. You've been a great leader. And I just want to, I thank you. I know the rest of the board feels the same way, but you have just been a real asset to this board of directors. You're going to be sorely missed. No offense to whoever's following in your footsteps, but you are going to be sorely, you and your expertise in questioning nature and willing to like get down to the root of the problem and figure out a way to solve it instead of just, it's just really been appreciated. There's been a lot of hard work that's happened on this board over the last 7 years. And a lot of it, I don't think would have gone as smoothly as it had without your leadership. So thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Go ahead. So I entered here, I want to say 2.5 years ago, and it was the West Valley crew plus Tempe that did a great job in mentoring me through a complete process. And it was Bill's wisdom who would call me and say, Laura, are Are you thinking about this? Are you looking at this? These are some of the dynamics we're facing. And so I want to thank you, Bill, for your mentorship.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
No, thank you. I never anticipated, first of all, when I got on here, that it would be seven years. I had to ask, I said, "Well, how long have we been doing this?" I was talking with my wife and my daughter last night, and I have spent more time associated with this organization than I have some of my employers throughout my 40 years in local government. So Valley Metro holds a very special place in my heart for that reason, but just for the flexibility and the endurance of the staff and the people here. I didn't know anything about bus service, about transit when I started, other than the wheels on the bus go round and round. But through other people that have mentored me that are no longer here on this board, and staff that has put up with me and educated and whatnot, the goal, the mission of Valley Metro of enhancing lives that's real. And this board can never forget that that's why we're here. We're not here for our sliver of the regional transportation system. We are here because people rely on what we do day in and day out. And they may not be necessarily in my community, but they are in someone's community in this board. And that's why we serve here. And I think we learned some very interesting lessons throughout the time that if the city of Tempe had decided a million years ago not to do light rail would not be in the city of Mesa today. And if another community decides not to have their bus service, the bus service does not continue farther west or farther east or farther north. So we are all in this together, regardless of how big our slice is. But to everybody here, I really appreciate the fact that you all don't throw things at me when I walk in the room, even though you have every right to. But please know that the push and the pull and the angst and the blood and the tears that we have all shared over these last 7 years were for a very specific reason, and that is to make this organization and the service that we provide to be the best that it can be. And for that, I will always be grateful for my time here. So thank you very, very much to everybody that's in this room. So with that, it's my pleasure to adjourn this meeting.
Well, Bill, I have a quick comment.
Thank you.
This is the second meeting this week where you've announced at your last meeting.
No.
I was surprised that Laura didn't call you a quitter. But I just want to express my gratitude for your service. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Yes, I said I didn't say farewell Tuesday at TPC, but it's the second time this week. I am termed out of office. I will finish my elected life in December of this year, but it is time for me to start to disconnect from some of these things so that when December rolls around, I'm not going to be a heaping bag of goo at the end of the year, unable to figure out how to even say my name. So say my name. Anyway, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And with that, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, 5 minutes, because we've got to say bye to Bill. All right, I'm going to convene the meeting and welcome members to the June meeting. Item number 1 is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is presented for action. Are there any questions, or if there are any items that need to be pulled for separate discussion? I don't hear any. I request a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items 1A through 1D.
I motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, ayes carry. I don't hear any discontent. Item number 2, West Phoenix High Capacity Transit Alternatives Analysis. Locally preferred alternative, West Phoenix HCTC AA-LPA. Jessica, would you like to introduce this item?
Well, that's a long title. I'm going to invite Trevor Collin, our Chief of Capital Development, to the podium to provide an alternative that outlines a recommended path for light rail expansion westward, primarily along Indian School Road. So westward light rail expansion is the name of the game here. Mr. Collin.
Thank you, Jessica, Madam Chair, members of the board. I won't repeat all those acronyms, so this is what we're talking about. We had a study area generally composed of Camelback Road on the north, McDowell on the south, 99th Avenue on the west, and then Central Avenue on the east. Just from this map, some points of reference. The red dashed line is the future I-10 West Light Rail project that's in the planning and preliminary phase right now. The solid blue line is a future bus rapid transit, BRT corridor in the city of Phoenix. And then on the far right, the purple line is our existing light rail line. During this process, we had 15 public meetings for approximately a year. 10 of those were in person, 5 virtual. We attracted 426 attendees and over 900 comment forms were collected. Chair, thank you for hosting a venue for coffee with your constituents. I think we got to attend a few of those as well. So it was quite an extensive bit of outreach for this project. So the action before the board is to approve a locally preferred alternative. In this map, the locally preferred alternative is the solid green line along Indian School Road that heads south on 75th Avenue. The 2 dashed lines on the right side are 2 options that we're taking forward for connections into the light rail system based on feedback that we did receive from the community. This is really an important project. It would bring a new mode, and that mode is light rail, into the Maryville Village into West Phoenix. And it would connect into the end of line of the 10 West project at the Desert Sky Transit Center. As far as steps and what's happened, so the City of Phoenix Council has approved the LPA just at the end of last month. It's going through the board process today, and then it will go through the MAG committee cycle in August. As we get closer to the project delivery timing and in the regional transportation plan, construction could start as early as 2041. That's what's currently in the plan. We would go back out to the community. We would certainly have to finalize the decision on the connection point to the existing light rail system, either 19th Avenue or down Indian School. But with that, that's what's before you is to adopt this LPA with the mode as light rail. I'm happy to take any comments or questions.
I have some questions. Can you go back to the last slide? The green is solid. So when we turn this in and it's solid, that's where we're going to put the rail.
Yeah, that would be, with the approval, that would be the route that we've determined, and it would take another action to change that. Obviously, we're going to have to take action on those 2 dash connection lines either way. So there will be another action eventually to finalize that piece of the LPA.
Okay, so where the dash connection line are 19th Avenue, or it will come from Central on Indian School?
Correct.
Okay. My question to this, because I got 3 calls yesterday regarding this, in particular by the I-17 area, so the 19th to the 27th Avenue. The business group or business owners are questioning the route there. And so I think I feel like communication with those that are going to be affected need to happen sooner than later. I get when I start asking questions, what I get is, well, this is not until 2041, but we are voting on something permanent today. And constituents don't understand that. Because what is said and what we vote on today, what has been told to them is that they could have a voice in the future.
Yeah.
But it's on, the future voice is really 19th Avenue and Central. It is not Indian School. Am I
Well,
correct?
we would, based on the timing, I mean, these are multi-step, multifaceted processes. So an LPA is early. As we advance the design, there's another round of public meetings. So the future public outreach wouldn't just be to those connection points. It would be the full corridor.
Okay.
So there will have to be, either way, we're going to have to define that connection point, but everything is on the board again. There will have to be a final LPA adopted for this corridor.
Right. But I guess where I'm confused is today, if I vote for the LPA the way it is, it's the beginning of the conversation and it is the beginning of this is where we're going to put it.
Yeah.
In the future, what I just heard, and I'm going to paraphrase, is there will be another opportunity.
Absolutely.
But the opportunity won't be to move it. That's where I'm trying to get at.
There's always an opportunity to change it. Based on the outreach and the study that was done, there's been a lot that's gone into that. And we've heard opinions on all sides. And so this is a milestone point where we define this, but it would take another action to adjust the LPA.
Right. It would
But it
take,
can happen. It certainly can happen, and it does.
no, I know, but it would take another action from the board here.
Correct.
So that's what I'm saying. It would take an action. There's 14 members that sit on here and community says, no, we don't want it. But 14 members may not know about what is happening in the community. So I'm just being
Yeah, I
clear
understand.
for people that come back in history and see that I asked those questions
Yeah.
so that they know I asked the questions.
Understood. Yeah.
So, okay. I need a motion. I don't think we have any other discussion.
No.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to approve.
Second? All those
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Those that are not,
Yes.
please say no. Action carries, motion carries. All right, thank you. Item number 3, fiscal year 2025 election of the Valley Metro Rail Board officers and subcommittee meetings. Let's see. Based on letters of interest received, it is recommended that the VMR Board of Directors elect officers and subcommittee members to serve July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2025 for the following positions. Board officers, VMR Board Chair, Vice Mayor Francisco Heredia from the City of Mesa. VMR Board Vice Chair, Councilmember Laura Pastor from the City of Phoenix. And then I have Valley Metro RPTA and Valley Metro Rail Joint Board Subcommittee, July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. Vice Mayor Francisco Heredia from the City of Mesa and Councilmember Laura Pastor from the City of Phoenix.
Motion to approve.
Do I vote? Okay, second. This is weird.
Second.
Awkward. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Those that are
Yes.
not, no. The yeses carry. All right. That was very awkward, Pat. Item number 4, report on current events and suggested future agenda items. Are there any? I guess not. Item 5, next meeting. The next board meeting is Thursday, August 22nd, 2024 at 11:15 a.m.
Meeting adjourned.
Good job. Yay.